It's day 7 without power. You've used up all your propane, all of your fuel, all of your other sources, and you're trying to figure out how to stay warm. In today's video, that's what I'm going to talk about, is some alternative heating sources that you can use with everyday household items you probably have in your cupboards and in your pantry right now. If you're new to this channel, my name's Jeff, and I cover emergency preparedness, tips, tools, and strategies on how to keep you and your family safe in the event of an emergency or disaster. But today, we're trying to stay warm, so let's get to it. The first thing I'm going to assume is that you've already done everything you can to create a microclimate for yourself to stay warm. That starts with your clothing that you're wearing. That you're wearing loose, bulky clothing like an old wool jacket or a puffer coat with different layers. You've got a beanie or a hat on your head keeping that heat in. You're wearing different clothes to help you keep your individual microclimate as warm as possible and retain that heat and keep from losing it. Secondly, you've created that microclimate in your house, whether it's a small room or a small space, where you've sealed off the windows or the doors with tape, plastic, a blanket covering those up to keep the drafts from coming inside, or possibly even a walk-in closet with all those clothes, and that's going to help insulate that room as well. I've even seen some great suggestions about how people have cut out the bottom of their tent and then placed that on top of their bed, giving them a place to lay or spend time where it's insulating them from the ground, allowing you to keep that body heat trapped in that microclimate. So I'm not going to talk about those things specifically. What I'm going to talk about are the different alternative DIY heaters that you can do at home with different household items that you probably already have. As we used to say in the Marine Corps, this is where you get to improvise, adapt, and overcome. So first, let's do a couple of disclaimers. Make sure that if you're going to be using an open flame or a fire in your house, that you've got a couple of things in place, if at all possible. First is a carbon monoxide detector, because anytime you're burning something indoors, there's always the risk that you're going to create carbon monoxide, which the unfortunate thing about that is if it builds up in the house, you may fall asleep and never wake up. It's the silent killer. Secondly, if you have a fire extinguisher, you want to have that on hand and ready to use. And if you don't, you can use one of those fire blankets or even a damp or wet towel and just have that on standby that you could lay over the top of something that might catch fire. Now, if you noticed, I was using a kerosene lantern. I want to give you a couple of tips on this real quick. In case you have one of those. Right now, you can see that it's burning a small flame. It's not producing any soot or smoke, but if you put that flame up too high, it starts to produce smoke. So you can see that coming out of there. So that's one of the things that's showing you that you have incomplete combustion going on, and you want to make sure you adjust that flame so that it's burning all of that fuel. Now, a kerosene lantern isn't necessarily the best thing to have indoors, but if you're burning it efficiently, it shouldn't be producing much carbon monoxide or unburnt gases, which is what you don't want to have. This is already, I can tell you right now, putting off a lot of heat right over the top of the lantern. So if you had that in a slightly smaller space, this is going to help heat up that room and keep it a little bit warmer. But again, please be mindful of using a carbon monoxide detector anytime you're using an open flame in your house. Now, in a previous video, which I'll link here, hopefully you've already stored up water in your bathtub prior to the power going out because the conditions warranted that the power might go out. Now that the power's been out for a while and it's getting really cold in your house, you don't want that water in your bathtub freezing. So a good simple way to keep it from freezing is just put a candle in there, put it in a safe location, like maybe it's right on the middle of your toilet seat. That way there's nothing flammable around it. Make sure the area is clear, and it could just simply be one of those scented candles that's in a big glass container and you have it sitting there. You got plenty of water next to it that if you had to put it out, if it caused a fire, you were able to do that. But the big thing is you want to keep your water source from freezing and causing damage to your tub or your house. Now, for the purposes of the heaters that I'm going to talk about and give you demonstrations on, the ideal location to do that is always going to be in your kitchen, at your stove, or in your oven, because it's already designed for heat. That's going to be your ideal place to do this. If not, maybe on a countertop or a table or something that doesn't have any flammables bought nearby, and you want to make sure you're putting something underneath it just to keep from having any of that heat transfer to potentially catch something on fire. Now, if you happen to be fortunate enough to have a gas cooktop, then you can use that if the gas is still operating. You just want to make sure that you light it with a lighter so you don't just have gas escaping and filling the house. But that would be the ideal place to be able to cook, to be able to heat things up. The heaters that we're going to talk about today that are going to be able to last long, that you can move to your microclimate and help keep you warm in that small space. Now, in addition to that gas cook stove that you have in your house, if you don't have one of those accessible, some other traditional ways of being able to provide heat and light in your house use are simply candles like these, where you've got the multi-wick candles, the larger ones, or even some tea lights. Another way is the little sterno cans that you could have that are designed for use indoors with chafing dishes and such. Those are both packaged ways to be able to create heat and light. But another thing is creating essentially a DIY alcohol stove. One of the items you might have on hand that you could use as a fuel source, a rubbing alcohol like this. You want to make sure that it's 70% alcohol or higher, and preferably the higher the better, because it's going to give you a cleaner burn. But alcohol is very flammable, and this is something you could use to burn in a pinch if you're trying to create heat and be able to keep yourself warm while you're indoors. The next common household item that you might have that you could use as a fuel source might be something like this. It's simply hand sanitizer that's, again, higher than 70% alcohol. You want to have an ethyl alcohol or ethanol based hand sanitizer, and that's going to be a great burning fuel. It's very highly flammable. So again, you want to make sure you're following those safety precautions, just like with the alcohol or anything else when you've got that open burning flame. The thing with alcohol and hand sanitizer is they burn very clean, which typically means the flame is very hard to see. So you have to be careful with that and use caution. You make sure that it's completely out before you are handling or moving around and trying to move some of those heaters that we're going to talk about from the flame. So you want to make sure you put it out. Of course, the preferred method is using something like denatured alcohol, which is designed for alcohol stoves. It's going to be the purest form of alcohol fuel, but you may or may not have that on. So that's why I wanted to talk about those other items that are probably under your sink or in your pantry. So the next thing I want to talk about in creating this heat source that you can safely use in your microclimate is the concept of creating a mass. So if you've baked something in the oven in a glass dish or possibly even a Dutch oven, when you take that out of the oven, it'll stay hot for a long time. Say it was a casserole or something. That actually will stay hot and retain its heat and slowly dissipate that heat out into the surrounding environment for a very long time. Some of the things that you can use to create this mass, if you've got sand on hand, you can put some good clean dry sand inside of a Dutch oven or even a flower pot, and you can heat that up over your flame or fire source. And then once that gets to a hot temperature, you can remove it from that fire source. There's no flame associated with it, and you can take that safely into your microclimate. So that's going to continue to radiate heat for a very long time, keeping your little microclimate warm. You've minimized the amount of time that you've been at your heat source trying to get that mass warm, and that allows you to minimize your time in the colder environment or colder temperature that's outside of your microclimate. Again, you want to be able to create that heat and then take it safely from the heat source into your microclimate. Now, mind you, you've already put that heat source out when you go to your microclimate. If you don't have sand available, you could simply use water. You could heat up that water, bring it to a boil or a near boil, and then you could transfer it from that pot or maybe a tea kettle into water bottles. You can do makeshift water bladders if you have hot water bags. If you don't have any of those, you could use something like inner tubes. Simply cut them off, tie it off on one end, pour that hot water in, tie it off on that end, and then you take that into your microclimate, put it in your sleeping bag, put it under your blankets, and that's going to help you continue to stay warm and be able to sleep safely without having a fire burning while you're trying to sleep, because you definitely don't want to do that. That's a very dangerous thing, and many people are killed every year by having a fire going in their house, whether it's candles or any other source, while they're sleeping. So long as it's in a wood stove or a fireplace, we're probably not even having this conversation. You're not looking for an alternative source. So I'm not talking about those things, but I am talking about trying to have a heater, a propane heater, or a candle, or anything else like that. Some of these other heater sources or fires burning, you definitely don't want to do that. You always want to extinguish those before you go to sleep. Another source of mass could be simply taking some flour and some water, mixing it together, almost creating that thick glue or paste, and heat that up. It's going to dry out, but it's not going to slosh around if you're moving it back and forth from your heat source to your microclimate. So you can continue heating that up over and over again. And then when it's all said and done, just dump it out, clean out the pot or the pan that you're using. No harm, no foul. But you've used it to stay warm in a pinch. Another source of a mass could be if you've got some bricks laying around outside or in your yard or in your house, in your garage. You can kind of clean those off, wipe them off, and you can put those around your heat source so that while you're heating up that pot that's got the hot water or the sand or whatever might be in there, while you're heating that up, those bricks are also absorbing all of that other radiant heat. You can transfer those bricks into your microclimate. So anything like that's going to kind of retain that heat is going to be a good source for being able to make that mass that's storing that heat that you can transfer to your microclimate. Another way you could do that is using a flower pot that's out of like ceramic or something heavy or even terracotta. You could fill those with that mass. That terracotta is also going to act as more mass to help keep more heat. Another way of doing it is taking that terracotta or flower pot that's ceramic, putting it upside down and having a candle underneath it. that you support the flower pot upside down an inch or two off the ground so it can get some air circulation in there. But you're burning a candle. Could be something as simple as a tea light for a couple of hours, and that thing is getting hot. It's staying hot, and you can transfer that pot to your room or to your microclimate, and that's going to help keep it warm. Now, if you've got a safe place in your microclimate, you could burn that candle, provided you're staying awake, underneath that flower pot. That's also going to be creating some light in there for you to use if it's dark, and it's going to help create that heat. And then when you blow out the candle or it burns itself out, you can go ahead and transfer that pot into your microclimate if it's not already in it. If it's just in the room and you're trying to put it in the tent or the blanket fort that you've built, you can go ahead and safely put that flower pot in there, and that's going to continue to radiate heat for hours and hours, helping keep you warm when it's super cold. When it comes to making a sand battery or creating that mass with sand, there are numerous different ways that you can create that. Basically, you want to have it in something that is fireproof and safe, that's not going to catch fire, and you're putting it over the flame. It's full of sand. There are other ways to transfer that heat into the sand. Lots of different opportunities to explore that. The thing is, you're looking for a sand battery and how to do that. If you just had a simple mass of sand, you can heat it from underneath. That's going to warm up, and that's going to continue to radiate heat for hours. If you're looking for different videos on tips on how to do that, there's lots of great ideas out there. So take a look at how to make a sand battery, provided you have some sand on hand. Now, if you do have those bricks available that you can use, you can place those on a cookie sheet and put that inside of your oven, so that when you put your heat source in between those bricks, you can even make it into a semi-rocket mass heater. Put that sterno can or the other alternative ways that we're going to talk about inside of those bricks in the middle of it, and then you put your sand battery or your mass on top of that, your water, whatever that may be. Throw it in the oven, close the door, and then as that oven is heating up, when you're done warming up the mass, you can take the mass out and you can take the bricks out, and all of those are going to help create heat in your microclimate. As I mentioned, if you're using water for your heat mass, get creative with it. What can you put it in after you've brought it to a hot temperature or a boiling temperature that you can close it up and safely transport it to your microclimate so that you can stay warm? Is it a single wall water bottle, plastic water bottles, freezer bags, whatever it may be, is going to keep that sealed up in there, and it's not going to allow it to spill out so that obviously you're getting wet and then cold, but you want to make sure that you can keep it sealed and contained. Just get creative. Whatever you can put it in. Maybe you're just leaving it in the pot and putting a lid on it so it doesn't spill. And then you set it in the middle of your microclimate and you're curled up around it. You and your family and your kids are staying warm around it, kind of like having a campfire without the fire. Now, let's say that you don't have candles or sterno available and you're looking for a way to make that DIY alcohol heater. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can take a chicken can, a tuna can, you can even take soup cans. Put some sort of wicking device in there. You can use toilet paper. So long as you cram it in there really tight, you remove that cardboard tube from the middle. The toilet paper is not actually going to burn. You're going to pour that alcohol or denatured alcohol in there, or the hand sanitizer, and that toilet paper is going to act as a wick that's bringing that alcohol fuel to the top. And it's just the vapor of the fuel that's burning. It's not actually the toilet paper. So that'll last a really long time. You can refill it over and over again. It gives you a small opening at the top with the can that you can simply put a plate or another pan or something over the top of it to snuff it out and smother it. That way, when you're done burning the flame and you're done heating up your device, you can go ahead and put it out. And then when you come back to it, simply take that lid off and it lights right back up. If you've stuck with me this long, I've got a bonus tip for you. But first, I want to say that if you haven't already been preparing or getting yourself and your family prepared, I've got a free Evac-Pack checklist link down below that you can go ahead and click on. And that's going to tell you how to build an Evac-Pack for you, for each member of your family, in the event that you had to evacuate quickly from your house with a moment's notice. And it's going to give you those things that you need to have in the event that you've got to start over again or you're trying to recover from a disaster. Now for that bonus tip. If you stuck with me this far and you're taking the time to make these DIY heaters and you're using the energy and the resources and the fuel that you have, sometimes the best source of mass is the food you're preparing to eat, because there's nothing better for morale, lifting your spirits, than having something warm to eat when it's cold out. So if you've got that hot water, make yourself a cup of hot tea or hot chocolate, maybe some coffee to help you stay warm, keep your spirits elevated. Perhaps maybe you are making that casserole and you're putting it in that Dutch oven. And then you take it to your tent and you've got hot food there in your microclimate that you and your family can eat. At the same time, keeping your bellies warm and keeping your microclimate warm as well. Or maybe you're just making a hot soup or something you've put together and put in there and bring it to a boil so it can cook, and then you transfer that to your microclimate. A happy, warm tummy lifts your spirits and keeps your body warm. That keeps your very first microclimate inside of your clothing, helps keep you warmer. If you're able to keep your stomach filled with some warm food or warm liquids, that's keeping your microclimate that's around your body with that bulk clothing, the wool, the puffer jackets, the beanies, that's keeping your body warm from the inside out. And that's going to help you stay warm even when it's colder out, or when you're having to heat up things in your kitchen and it's a little bit colder before you're getting back into your microclimate. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. If you've got other tips and suggestions that everybody here in the comments can learn from, or people who are watching this video, please throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Some of these ideas have come from people who've made comments, like cutting out the bottom of your tent to help create that microclimate. You might not want to destroy your tent, but hey, if we're talking life and death, go for it. So until next time, keep practicing, keep prepping, and stay safe. American Thrivalist out.